Welcome to the Fight with Teddy Atlas, presented by Dynamic Striking. I'm Ken Rideout, joined as always by the voice of celebrity boxing, the great Teddy Atlas. Teddy, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, Ken. I'm not as good as you. You know, you're high knobbing it with the big shots with the all the Hollywood elite. All the stars and everything. You're a star. You're in your element. I mean, you're where you belong.
I'm in my element right now, hobnobbing with the biggest star in combat sports. That's the only reason I have any access to anything in the sport is because of you.
I appreciate that. I mean, I'm happy for you to be able to have access and to have these kind of things happen, which you're just a good person, and it's nice to see people have you with them and appreciate you, and for you to have that access and have that it's a nice thing to have that chance to be with not these people because they're known and they're stars and they're obviously successful, like Dustin Poirier, people like that, and Woodley and all these people in this business. But it's a good person being with other good people. That's the way I look at it. I don't look at it as much with the separation of, that obviously they have a celebrityness and all that. That's obviously, that goes without saying. They've earned it. But I look at it the way I just said it, that they're good people. And if you were fortunate enough to meet those people, even if they didn't have the celebrityness, and you were able to find out the kind of people they are, you'd enjoy being with them. Period.
That's right. And speaking of good people and enjoying their celebrity status, Teddy, when we walked into that arena, I walked in with Dustin Poirier, obviously, who we mentioned on the last show that I was going to be there with my bodyguard. It was Dustin Poirier. I guess it wouldn't have mattered if I mentioned it now, because I can tell you when we walked into that place, my friend Jesse Itzler and another guy, Devin Levesque, were both with us too. Jesse owns the Atlanta Hawks, super nice guy. We walked in there with Dustin. You would have thought Mick Jagger walked in, or I don't know, who's the biggest star in the world. The place went crazy. Jay-Z. The place went crazy. It was a constant parade of people to our seats insisting, not, hey, Dustin, can I take a picture? It was like, hey, Dustin, can I take a picture? As they grab him in a headlock and step on my shoes and pushing past. I was like, are you asking or telling? But Dustin, to his credit, couldn't have been more of a gentleman. Teddy, I'm not kidding. He took 10,000 pictures. I said to him by the end, I said, if we don't have COVID now, there is no such thing. People were in our face the whole night breathing. The security came down and said, hey, Dave Chappelle is in the back, wants to talk to you guys. They brought us in the back. Then they came over, hey, Tyron Woodley wants to see you. Jake Paul wants to see you. So we were like doing the whole tour. Well, obviously, Dustin was doing the tour and said, I'm not coming without my man. So we all went, but man, it was just great to see him get the recognition he so deserves for being such a good person. And majority of the comments that people were making were that they loved and appreciated the way he handled himself after the most recent McGregor victory, with McGregor acting, of course, like a complete sore sport, and Dustin just rising up and just being a gentleman the whole time. It was just great to see. A complete circus atmosphere at this event, Teddy. Unlike any fight that I've ever been to. At times I was like, dude, is there any security here? There were fights in the crowd. No one was in their seats. It was like, as soon as the fight started, people just stormed the ring. Honestly, it was complete chaos. As soon as the fight ended, we had to make a mad sprint out of there because it was slightly uneasy, to say the least. But I'm dying to hear your thoughts on some of these fights, because...
No, that's great to hear that, because, hey, look, Dustin is a superhero. I mean, in their own way, these, because he's got the character to go along with the talent, and he, in his own way, he beat an anti-hero.
Yeah.
In a sort of way. I mean, I'm not knocking McGregor. McGregor is, give him all the credit in the world. He's a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal promoter, phenomenal fighter. He's a warrior. I mean, like him or don't like him, and he's he's been a pioneer for the sport. He's taken it to other levels, to other places. With the from an economic standpoint, kind of like, I know some people probably get they have a conniption fit to hear this, but in some ways the way that there's always someone before you, but like Muhammad Ali would bring boxing to that next level of a paycheck for the fighters.
I think that's a very fair comparison.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He did. McGregor did that.
100%.
Like him or hate him, it doesn't matter. And that's part of why he did it, because people hate him and like him, like Muhammad Ali used to say. Yep. Hey, at the end of the day, there's one consistency. Whether they hate me or like me, they all buy a ticket. Yep. And and that's what makes the world go round in their world. That's what gets it done. That's the magic of it. That's the success of it. He's an antagonist, and the antagonist was beat. The villain was beat, and Dustin is like Captain America. He comes in there on his shield, and it's great to hear that. It's great for him to be acknowledged that way and celebrated that way and just embraced, because he's a regular guy.
He really is.
He is what the people would wish someone to be when they're that guy that they pay money to watch and that they look up to. So that's great. I'm great. That's great. I'm happy for you. Happy for him. That's terrific. Couldn't happen to better people. And please always take my phone call, Ken. Please.
No question.
That would break my heart. That would break my heart if I Teddy Ho.
Never.
That would kill me.
Never. You're my best friend. I love you. If you're at the top of the list, and you know that.
Because I knew you when you weren't quite as famous. So go ahead.
You and I are gonna live and die together. Hey, before we get into the fights, Teddy, one thing that a lot of the guys on this card probably should have done was subscribe to Dynamic Striking and checked out some of your boxing basics, because there wasn't a lot of boxing basics going on. There were not a lot of jabs. In the first fight, we'll get into in a minute, Tommy Fury, if he did anything, he threw a beautiful 1-2 when he decided to throw it, and it looked like he could have done that the whole night. The kid who he was fighting just kept dipping to the right every single time. I was like, dude, I don't consider myself a boxing analyst or a purist. I'm like, he's doing the same thing every time. Hit him with a left when he does that. Anyway, I digress, but I'll turn it over to you in a minute. But Dynamic Striking, check out Teddy's videos there. You can learn all the fundamentals of boxing. You can learn the jab, the uppercut, the peekaboo style, whatever you like. It's all there. And also, check out Teddy's audiobook if you like some of the topics that we discuss here and you want to hear more about his background. Check out Teddy's audiobook, available on audible.com, at amazon.com, etc., etc. Teddy, what'd you think of the Tommy Fury fight early on, first fight of the night?
Full disclosure, as always, I only saw the last 40 seconds. I tuned it in, and I saw the last 40 seconds of the fourth round, and I think I saw enough. I think, first of all, to your point of the opponent slipping to his right, that is the side you don't want to stay on when you're fighting an orthodox fighter, because if you slip to your right and you stay on your right, you're in the lane of the right hand. You want to finish on the left side where you're outside the right hand, So that just needs to be said since you brought that up. But look, we're not here to make fun of people, but we're here to administer the truth. And, I don't think I had to see more than 40 seconds. He's very crude. He's obviously hasn't had much experience. But he's just not polished. He's the nicest thing I could say is, he's a good-looking guy, and he
very
might
handsome.
be better. He might be better off. In some ways, again, it's how can it not come off as a knock? And I don't mean it to, but the truth is the truth. He might be better off modeling those gloves with those trunks than he is fighting in them, to a certain extent. But having saw 40 seconds, if there was stock for sale in your world, so to speak, Ken, I'm not buying. You know, again, if it comes off, you know, I'm talking about him being crude. I don't want to come off crude or cruel. But again, we're here to tell the truth to the audience. And does that mean that he can't improve? No. He's obviously a work in progress. But, you know, how much time do you have to improve, and to what level can you get to? I can't perceive him getting to any kind of really consequential level. You know, I within a time frame that is obviously a common sense time frame that we're talking about. You know, we're not talking about we're not talking about 2030. You know, we're talking about in recent amount of time, or in a decent amount of future time. I just don't see, and I don't know if I could see selling that fight, to be honest with you, with Paul at this point.
I mean, Tommy Fury at this point is only fighting 4 rounders. Jake Paul is in there. I mean, at least he went 8 rounds with the former UFC champ. We'll get into that in a minute. But my takeaway from that fight, when I was sitting there with the guys who we were watching together, I thought, if this kid who Tommy Fury is fighting, I can't remember his name, if this kid is Jake Paul's main sparring partner, I want 10,000 on Woodley, because I thought that kid, and again, like you, I don't try to knock anyone. Look, I'm not getting in the ring, but I thought that for a guy whose job is a boxer, he did not have any technique at all. And all I could think was, if that's the only guy Jake Paul's working with clearly it can't be, because Paul looked much better, but that kid did not look polished. He did not look good.
Well, I mean, again, you didn't have to spend a lot of time watching it. I saw the last 40 seconds or so, and you could see that he's he's not going to be mistaken for a contender.
No.
Let's put it that way.
I will say the production value at that place, the production itself, aside from the lack of security and the madness in the crowd, I thought the production value was really entertaining. I loved all the walkouts. It was exciting. I thought they did a good job. I loved seeing Ariel Helwani there in the ring doing the post-fight interviews. I loved seeing the guys from Barstool Sports had their desk up there. I love those guys. I absolutely love them. They bring a lighthearted element to these events that sometimes can take an unnecessarily serious tone, but it wasn't that complete circus that Triller was putting on. It was still serious. I mean, obviously I didn't see the broadcast, but from being there, it had the feel of a professional fight, minus the security in the crowd. But I liked the Barstool element that lightened the mood just a little bit without turning into a sideshow that is Triller. Nevertheless,
but I can tell you this. I give you this much, since you didn't watch it. Bet the opposite of what they pick. You make money. You do well, and they do a good job. Portnoy, of course, is a genius. You know, he was ahead of the curve with all this streaming stuff and everything that I don't understand anything. I might as well be cracking molecules, and splitting atoms.
I think you meant, you go splitting atoms.
When I talk about streaming, but obviously he's a genius. He's built a hell of a business with that Barstool, and he's smart. He's entertaining, and it does bring that it does bring that value to the broadcast of everybody. The gambling aspect is out there. And if nothing else, not only does it give you an opportunity to put a couple shillings, as I think about my brothers and sisters across the pond, on something, but it brings the event, it gives the event authenticity when you put that in there. It just makes it feel bigger.
Yeah, and exactly. People are betting on sports like it's going out of style. To ignore it and pretend like it's not happening is naive and foolish. It's like making cannabis illegal. If you want to smoke cannabis, same with alcohol and prohibition. It's like, come on, man, we're beating around the bush. Adding that sports element, I love seeing during the game. Oh, the live line is now here. If you could take him, now he's getting the crap beat out of him. Now he's plus 800 instead of even money. You know how, and I like that Barstool's highlighting
to that
all
point,
that.
I'll tell you what's interesting. To that point, it made me think, and we'll get to it now in a second, but in the other fight, Baranchyk and Love, I was saying, how the hell, who made Love a favorite? I mean, who made Love an underdog? Who made Baranchyk a favorite? Because when you watch that, I mean, Love dominated that fight. I mean, he was much the better fighter and a more together boxer, much more polished, much better technique. Southpaw, who was smart, picking the spots, counter punching. I mean, he was good. And Baranchyk, I mean, I'd like to know who made him. Maybe I need to be on that site and make a few shillings, because whoever made him a favorite, God, I don't know who made Baranchyk a favorite.
You know what, though? Before the fight, I would have said, if you just asked me, hey, Baranchyk is fighting this kid, Montana Love, I didn't know much about him. I know Baranchyk is tough from his fight against Jose Zepeda. I think that was his last opponent when they had Fight of the Year. He ended up getting knocked out, but my God, he can go tooth and nail. I didn't know much about Montana Love. So I'd say, yeah, all right, maybe Barancyk's a small favorite.
No, but the people who make these lines, they're not you. They need to know something.
I know.
You know what I mean? And to not know that, I mean, Baranchyk, you know, he acts as though it's illegal to throw a straight punch. And it's also against the law to move your head.
Well, yeah, let's get into it. But Baranchyk, Montana Love. Montana Love stops Baranchyk at the end of the 7th round. For those that don't know, like I said, Baranchyk had been knocked out badly in his last fight. Was it Jose Zepeda? Was that the last?
I think so.
Yeah. Tooth and nail. Fight of the year. I mean, blood and guts. Beat the crap out of each other. Like you said, not a lot of head movement and defense, just a lot of face punching. So that being said, he had a long suspension from Nevada State Athletic Commission because he had taken such a beat and had been knocked out cold. So when this fight at the end of the 7th round, when Montana Love started putting it on him, Baranchyk survived. The ref was going to let him continue. The bell rings. He goes back to the corner. And to the trainer's credit, as soon as he got back, I mean, he was out on his feet. As soon as he got back to the corner, the trainer started taking the tape off as his promoters, Lou DiBella and another guy who co-promotes, were running over to the corner to demand them stop the fight because of the punishment he took in that round and the previous fight. So to everyone's credit, they stopped it, and Montana Love got the win. So with that being said, what'd you see there? And obviously you weren't surprised.
Yeah, no, listen, all you have to know about that matchup was Love. You know, Love was a really good amateur. He knew how to fight, you know, and he was obviously in a better mental and physical place, you know, not having come off a stoppage loss like Baranchyk. He was in a better place in every way, and just a much more complete fighter. He's a southpaw. He dominated the fight except one spot where he got caught. He was just so much smarter, better technically, as I said. Baranchyk, as I said, really did act as though, it's against the law to throw a straight punch or move his head. Matter of fact, I had just texted to Rob, just literally, I had it all set up. I was about to push the button, like 10 seconds before he got hit with that uppercut. Baranchyk got knocked out with that uppercut or dropped. And I just waited a little too long, and then bang, I hit it, and then the knockout happened. So you have to trust me that I had just said he's about to get knocked out. Matter of fact, I was being a little cute with words, not that it was too poetic or too difficult or exactly makes me any kind of wordsmith. I was just saying I love by KO, and then bang, it was all over. But I'll tell you, I have to, if they're gonna make lines like that, I might be interested in doing some of my bookie stuff and looking at that to have a little supplemental income, as they like to say, because that. Again, to make him favorite, it's I know it's hindsight, it's 2020, I get it, but it was pretty obvious that Love was just the superior guy. But anyway, hopefully he's okay. Baranchyk, that's the main thing, that he's okay. He's not hurt.
Yeah, that was congratulations to Montana Love, the hometown hero there, fighting in Cleveland. He looked good. Next up, female fighter. I love Amanda Serrano as a fighter. It's unfortunate some of the distractions that come with her seemingly every time she fights with the manager, trainer, who I've met multiple times and in person is a very nice guy. But my God, some of the antics from the trainer, brother-in-law, manager.
Terrible.
Yikes. Amanda Serrano, one-sided beatdown on Yamileth Mercado, Mexican fighter. She gets 10 round victory, unanimous decision, one-way traffic all night. Maybe the Mexican girl won a round or two, but Amanda Serrano's an awesome fighter. I like her as a fighter. She's classy. She's pretty. She just shows up and beats people up, and you never hear about any crap with her outside of the ring. I like her. And then unfortunately, Jordan steals the spotlight after the fight with just, I don't know why he does this, but he does, and it's unfortunate. But how'd you like that fight, and what'd you think of Amanda Serrano?
So I love her. As you're giving her, platitudes, and deservingly so. I mean, Serrano's very dimensional, versatile, can go get it, can go get you inside, can counter too. She's like a Terrence Crawford, goes to the body like Warford, like Mickey Ward. I mean, when I say like Terrence Crawford, I mean Terrence Crawford can go get you. He's my number one right now, pound for pound, best fighter in the world. He can go get you. He can counter. He can go inside, outside. She's that dimension. I use Terrence Crawford to just kind of bang that idea home that she's that good. She knows what the hell she's doing. Mercado, as I said, she also goes to the body like Mickey Ward, the great body puncher. Mercado showed great heart and character. The promoter, I had sent out a tweet on this. The promoter, should give her a bonus. The way she kept trying, never giving in while she was obviously outgunned.
Yeah, I meant to say that. No quit whatsoever. She was there all night and she was taking shots and kept coming. God. Credit to her.
So brave, so tough. And she should get a bonus. Seriously, I'm not just, I mean that. Kind of the way they do with, not that I'm trying to spend anyone's money, but I am. A little bit like they do with the UFC when Dana White will have the bonus for the fight of the night or sensational knockout, whatever. I think in cases like this, when she showed that kind of courage, again, being outgunned all night long, she should get something extra. But anyway, Serrano showed class, speaking after the fight, the opposite of, as you just noted, her trainer, who tried to somehow question Mercado's courage and Mexican heritage. I thought it was terrible, saying that she ran instead of fighting like a Mexican. That was hard to hear.
If she had
fought, it was very difficult to hear that. It was difficult to listen to that. I mean, I guess according to the way he's talking, so I guess he would have said the same about Muhammad Ali's courage when he fought Joe Frazier, that Ali was boxing and and was showing not behaving like a fighter in his estimation. If he's going to say that about his own, if he's going to say that about Mercado, so it was a tough thing to hear him say.
Very. I mean, what should she do? Stand there and get knocked out for his entertainment? She was outgunned all night. I thought she made a valiant effort considering how outclassed she was at times, and she still stayed in there and kept throwing. Like, what could she have done different short of just stand still, plant her feet, and either get knocked out or land a bomb? I don't understand that. I really, it was disheartening to hear because it took away from Amanda Serrano, who's the star of the night. Did everything she was supposed to do. She was gracious in victory. And here comes the trainer or manager in the back chirping. You're not in there throwing punches, dude. Step back. Like let the fighters fight. Anyway,
well, it was not good to hear that. It was classless. But one of the commentators, I mentioned it, which I was happy to hear that somebody said something about it instead of just ignoring it. Some things have to be addressed. So and I also, it's probably just a coincidence, but one of the commentators had said a couple things exactly what I had said before the Woodley-Paul fight. Probably just an example of great minds thinking alike. I'm sure it's just a coincidence.
Of course.
I'm sure. And just, yeah, because otherwise, obviously, they would give credit to the person that they were getting that thought from. You know
what they should do in that case, Teddy, is simply go to Cameo, search Teddy Atlas, ask for a message regarding different types of different opinions on fight scenarios. Subscribe to the Teddy Atlas Cameo page and get a personalized message from Teddy.
You're my agent. You won it today. You are good, you. You are good, you.
And while you're at Cameo, you can navigate over to Box Raw and check out the 36 collection, the Teddy Atlas collection on Box Raw. They've got beautiful stuff. We've got some here at Teddy, and I'm going to break it out one of these days. It's a tank top, so I want to wait until my muscles get a little bit bigger.
Oh, they're big enough. I got
to get a little more lean.
You that stuff. You better start showing it.
Listen, if I didn't think that I would get destroyed on the internet for wearing a tank top on here, I would have worn it the first day, but I'm trying to figure out how to work it in, maybe over a t-shirt or something. That's all I need. Either they'll say I look like I got chicken arms, or they'll say that I've got, I have no definition. There'll be some critique. So I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to choose my poison.
They're gonna say, look at those guns on Ken. That's what they're gonna say. Look at those pythons. There they are. There they are. They're gonna say, put them in a cage. Those pythons.
Well, listen, we're coming up on the main event, and this was to me, this was one of the highlights of the night. So they came and got Dustin. They said, Dustin, you can come in the back and see Woodley and Jake, and they were like, I don't know if he said you can't bring anyone or you can bring one. And Dustin looks at me and I go, if you gotta go. He goes, no. Either they're taking us both or they're not, or I'm not going. And he was like, my man's coming with me. So we went back, we went in, and so we saw Jake Paul, had a few words, then he was doing his thing. And to his credit, he was like taking it serious. They were like real, they weren't clowning, they were warming up. And but the brother Logan Paul was there. So we're chit-chatting and I said, Teddy picked Jake to win by knockout. He goes, oh, I know. I watch every episode. He goes, I know exactly what he said. He said he's going to knock him out. Woodley's a shot fighter and blah, 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 blah. I was like, and then his dad came over, Paul's dad, and came over and said, love the show. Tell Teddy I said hello. Thanks for the vote of confidence. It was fun. Then we went into Tyron's locker room, and I got to tell you, when I saw Tyron warming up, talk about being built like a brick shithouse. In person, this kid is lean. He's thick. I don't know if they had drug testing in this thing, but he looked like a freak of nature. Like could be a linebacker in the NFL. He looked awesome. He looked smooth warming up. And he was also very serious. We were just in there for a split second.
It's nice to have special genetics, too.
Oh, you know how it is. I mean, you see some people, look, the guy obviously works his ass off. He's one of the best UFC champs in history. But when you look at one of those guys who's just like, my God, look at the physique on that guy. You can just tell some of those, to his credit, you get those genetic gifts, but then what do you do with them? Because a lot of people might waste them, but he's put them to use. And man, he looked good. And after seeing him and then seeing the sparring partner, I was thinking Tyron Woodley's going to kill him. And obviously that didn't happen. The fight was, but I will say the fight was more entertaining than I thought it would be. My takeaway from the fight, and I'm dying to hear what you thought about it, because obviously for the fans, we never discuss these things before we go live here. I give them what I saw and then turn it over to the expert. But from my perspective, it looked like Tyron Woodley had absolutely zero confidence in his cardio. It looked like he was he looked like he had the gas tank, but he refused to let his hands go, almost like, I know I have still some gas, so I'm not going to use it now. And he'd throw a flurry and then let him recover. He'd score on a few shots, let him recover. And I'm like, what? Dude, at least keep pressing with the jab or something. And again, it's easier to say than to do. But that was my perspective. And I thought Paul was tired, but justifiably so. He's had 4 fights. He doesn't have an amateur career. He's going 8 rounds with a guy who's a real fighter. So I had a little more understanding as to why Jake Paul might not want to extend himself early, but I couldn't understand why Tyron wouldn't, or at least he would walk him down, but then not throw. You're like, you're backing him up, and then let the other guy get off. Like, he's not working behind the jab. He wasn't doing like basic fundamentals. Again, could have used some dynamic striking tutorials. But what did you think? Did you get that impression at times? Like, well, Tyron, man, like, trust your cardio. It's only 8 rounds. Like, you're losing the fight by not being active, and it ends up being a very close decision for Jake Paul. What'd you think?
So, Ken, to your point, and listen, excellent point. Obviously, that's what it. That's exactly what it appeared. My thoughts on it is that there's a reason why I picked, and again, we always, full transparency, there's a reason why I picked Paul to win this fight, and I picked him by knockout. So I picked the right guy, but I had it going to, obviously the end result, not by knockout. So I was wrong, even though I was right with the winner. But the reason why I picked him, and I picked Paul, the less experienced, obviously, the guy who's not the professional fighter in this case, the reason I picked him is partly because Woodley has been you're attached to your mental frame. You could have a Ferrari race car, and it has all the horsepower in the world. It's got all the RPMs in the world. But if your temperament is, kind of to be driving Miss Daisy, right? I mean, if you've been, say, in an accident, and you're cautious about going fast now, it doesn't matter how much horsepower is underneath that hood. It don't matter. People look at the car, and you made a great point of looking at his physique and the way he looks and the way his, you figure his cardio was and all those things that you assume are attached to that. And you're right. You're not wrong. But it's the driver. If the Ferrari can be there with all that horsepower, 10,000 horsepower, whatever the hell it is, but if the driver is coming off accidents and the driver is not confident about hitting that gas pedal, that car has to obey the driver. And that's what I thought. I thought that, this car is still got plenty of horsepower, but the driver has been in some accidents. The driver has lost 4 fights in a row. The driver is not in a confident place. And that's why I bet against him. That was the main reason. Also, there was some physical reason because he pushes his jab, and I thought that he would leave a window open for the right hand to come over. And I thought that Paul's not Ernie Shavers with the right hand. I don't pretend that he is. But he's got a decent right hand, and more importantly, he believes in it. So I figured that there'd be an opportunity when the jab's being pushed for the right hand to be able to land. That's where I came up with the knockout. There has to be a reason. That was my physical reason for that. But the reason I picked him overall, and my backup was he's still going to win the fight, is because the driver's not a confident driver. Again, the engine's fine. There's nothing wrong with the engine. He's 39 years old, but he's not a used up 39, but where he's used up is mentally, where he's diminished his mental. And what I mean is not courage, anything. He's a warrior. He's a gladiator. I mean, Woodley is the greatest welterweight champion in the history of the UFC. Let me say it again. He's the greatest welterweight champion in the history of the UFC. Let me give him all his platitudes. Let me give him all his accolades. He deserves it. He's a warrior. He's a gladiator. All those guys are. He's special. But you are attached. When I did Friday Night Fights, when I did all the boxing at ESPN, I would always say, it doesn't matter what your power is. It doesn't matter what your speed is. It doesn't matter what your body looks like. It doesn't matter what your talent pool is. It matters, again, it's not the car, it's the driver. It matters what your temperament is, what your personality is, what your belief system is, where you are emotionally and mentally. That's what matters, because that's the way you're going to drive the car, whether it's a car of a human being or a mechanical car, whatever it is that we're using the analogy and the comparison. And he was in a place, and is in a place, Woodley, where he's not going to drive the car fast, where he's gotten to this place. And that's part of why he lost 4 in a row, because he's not taking the risk that he would have taken at another point in his life. And again, you want to blame it on 39? Go ahead. That takes some of the responsibility there, but it's not all that. It's where he is. Whether part of it's attached to being 39, whether it's attached now that he's lost 4 in a row. There's a confidence level. There's a level of belief. Yeah, I'm sure he believed he could beat this guy. But what gets translated, what comes out in the translation, what gets shown physically is the temperament he has now. And the temperament he has now is to be careful, to be cautious. And I think that in his mind somewhere, also adding to that, was that he wasn't going to be embarrassed. He wasn't going to lose his legacy. Very important. And he didn't. He wasn't going to lose his legacy like Askren may have to some degree. But that wasn't going to happen. So I think that fed into it. That his temperament already has been for the last several years to be cautious. But now he wanted to win. But that's winning, keeping your legacy intact. There's different degrees and dimensions of winning. People don't understand that sometimes. It's not just having your hand raised. I think they both won.
Yeah.
I think they both won.
I agree.
I think that he won and he kept his legacy. He didn't in place. That he's still the greatest welterweight champion in the history of the UFC. He went into a different realm, a boxing realm. Yeah, not with a professional fight. I get it. With a guy who's just learned this 3 years ago. But
let's
still,
not forget too that Woodley,
it's not his realm. He's not allowed to bring all his talents. He's not allowed to bring all his abilities into this realm, which is kicking, grappling, jiu-jitsu, whatever. He's not allowed to bring all that. But in the realm that he went in, he did not damage his legacy. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ken.
No. I just wanted to say that people keep saying this crap about Jake Paul fighter, real fighter. He has 4 fights. He fought 2 amateur fighters with no experience. Ben Askren, who's a wrestler, who clearly didn't know the fundamentals of boxing for all intents and purposes. And then he got in with Tyron Woodley, who's a legitimate fighter. He's not a boxer, but now people,
he's progressed. He has progressed. He's taken
I don't
a
get people criticize him, say, go fight a real fighter. You show me any human being who doesn't have a boxing pedigree at all, give them 4 amateur fights and say, go fight a real professional fighter. They did get there. You couldn't even be a sparring partner to a crap pro fighter with that experience level.
And to your point, he's not stupid. So
exactly.
Listen, and again, I want to blow up I want to get a little brain matter on the walls right now. He's like Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. There it is. Get the Lysol out. You got to clean that stuff up. Really, you can't leave that stuff on the walls. Go ahead, clean it up. Because he's like him because he's smart, because he's a good manager, he's a good matchmaker. He picks his spots really well. And he progressed a little bit, but he still picked his spot. And he picked it the way that I picked him to win, and the way that I picked Woodley, and where I saw shortcomings or opportunities for Paul to be able to beat him. It's the same way. Yeah, I look at this. I have to look at it with reasoning. I have to look at it with judgment, with experience to make my pick. I don't just put two names on a piece of paper and turn them upside down and flip them around a couple times and turn one up and say, okay, that's the guy I'm picking. No, I don't. It has to be based on something that tells me something. And that's exactly what he's doing, to his credit. He saw some of the things I saw. Obviously, he's got a size advantage of him. He's 15 years younger. Woodley's on a losing streak. But I think from a physical standpoint, he saw what I saw. That Woodley, for the most part, he'll push his jab out. He won't extend it. He's shorter to begin with. But if you're not extending your jab, well, then you're miniature. Then you've really magnified the difference of being short. I mean, you've really added to that problem, and he added to that problem. I felt that once again that it doesn't matter what's under the hood. What matters is who's driving and where that driver is, and mentally. And Woodley going into this fight, I think part of him winning was to start with, he's not going to get caught with something that could damage his legacy. That was part of it. I'm not saying he didn't try to win. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that to actually win this fight, he would have had the ability to make a decision and kind of leapfrog past that sort of stream running underneath that was the stream of caution, that danger stream, because he would have had to care maybe a little less about the legacy. He would have had to care maybe a little less about what we all care about, which is surviving.
Yep.
And I think that whether it was conscious or subconscious, that Woodley was part of Woodley's, and where he's been for a number of years now in the UFC, where he's gotten to a place where the caution becomes stronger than his ability to take a risk, to sell out, to win at all costs. Again, I'm not saying that I know how competitive he is. I know what a warrior he is. I respect all of that. But I know we're controlled by things, sometimes conscious, sometimes subconscious, that become entranced into us. They become embedded into our being, that we'd be foolish if we didn't have thoughts of concern, of not being reckless, of not being a kamikaze pilot, of not just, running into the propeller of the plane. I remember when, this will bring my point out, I remember when Tyson came back after being in prison. They picked his opponent. Very obviously, they were going to be very careful. And so they picked an opponent from Boston, from your neck of the woods. And his name right now, you could look it up on the computer.
Peter McNeely.
Yeah, McNeely. And now,
probably one of the best pre-fight interviews in the history of pre-fight interviews, like a fish out of water, deer in headlights, when he goes through thinking about it's for my grandmother, it's for my grandfather, and last but not least, it's for Stubby. Then the guy goes to someone else, last but not least, Medfield. And I was like, this poor guy.
Yeah.
And he's like kind of crying. He's so emotional. And then sure enough, he gets hit with 2 punches in the corners. Like, he's had enough.
The only one he didn't say is from, and it's from Ken Rideout. But
that would have been the only time I would have been like, I don't know that guy.
No, well, who's that? But when he came out and it ended in, the way people figure would end quickly.
Yeah.
And he ran out and he went right after Tyson. A lot of people said it was obviously courage, it was bravery, it was confidence, it was belief. It was the opposite of that. He's got guts. I don't. Anyone who gets in the ring has plenty of guts, more guts than an average guy. What I'm talking about, I'm separating things here and defining things. It was more about being out of control. He was out of control. His fear, his emotions took him into the propeller of the plane. He ran in there as much to get it over with.
That's right.
As he did to win. It wasn't about attached to true confidence. It wasn't attached to true warrior mentality. It was because a warrior wouldn't do that. A warrior mentality has more control over himself because he's refined in that area. He's developed in that area. He knows the dangers. And he would be more controlled in that area. And he showed the opposite of that. McNeely ran right because he was out of control. He was just looking to get it over with, even if he didn't consciously say that.
Yep.
That's what it amounted to. So the point I'm making here is that's what you wrestle with. And for Woodley's too experienced to just, he's not going to, he understands the dangers. And having gotten to the point he's gotten to, where he's no longer the prime Woodley that was welterweight champ, he's gotten to a place now where a lot of the thinking is in the area of knowing what the risk is. Where before he always knew the risk, but he had the ability to deal with that risk in a more aggressive way, in a more confident way. But now he has gotten into his MO, his method of operation has become where it's first about the risk. It's first about, whether he's thinking that consciously or not, it's there. And Paul saw that when you watch tapes of him. You could see that he's a guy. If you want to make it real simple and not go as deep as I'm going, you just say, well, he's not aggressive. He's not. But he used to be more aggressive. Now, and even when he had him hurt in the fourth round, when he buzzed him, he didn't. You could argue, and you're not wrong, to say he should have sold out more. He should have taken more. But you can't if that's not you anymore. If that's no longer you, you can't do that. Because you become what I'm saying you've become. Where that is what controls you physically. Because that's what will control you emotionally and mentally. So that the problem all night long, he put pressure. People said, and I was going to text this and I decided not to. Pressure breaks pipes. Pressure breaks people. And the pressure started to tire Paul. But what the pressure was not accompanied with, it was not joined with, partnered with, was punches in a consistent manner. It was not to your point. It was not partnered with punches. So what it's tantamount to doing is going out there. The fall's coming. Autumn's coming pretty soon, Ken. You're going to... Well, I know you have people that do this work for you. But for the
I got
average,
4 little kids that are going to rake those leaves.
There it is. They're the right guys. That's the right way to raise somebody.
Of course.
They're going to go out there and rake leaves. Now, when you rake the leaves and you rake them into a pile, what do? You get rid of the leaves. You don't leave them in the pile so the wind can blow them back and scatter them again. Well, basically, that's what happened. He was raking the leaves, going forward, doing all the physical work, raking the leaves into a pile, but then he didn't get rid of the leaves. And he let the leaves scatter back. And that's exactly what happened. And in the leaves being obviously Paul, where he got back to being on the outside and back to controlling with the jab and back to being able to survive and then win rounds. He did not get rid of the leaves. And he, at this point in his career, I don't know that he has the mentality, the capacity to have that mentality anymore. And that's why I picked against him, where he was. And again, you want to attach it to 39? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm not going to argue with you. But whatever you want to, that's where he is. He's the guy driving the car. The car's still good enough to drive faster. It's still good. I believe that. But he doesn't believe it. He doesn't.
That's exactly what it looked like.
And he doesn't have that level of belief anymore. So, and he, again, it might not even be conscious as much as it is ingrained subconsciously, that it's just where he is and what he is now. So, at the end of the day, yeah, he was putting pressure on him, but it wasn't the effective aggression and pressure. You know, he wasn't getting rid of the leaves. That's the bottom line. It wasn't with the punches. And even when he hurt him, he won 2 rounds on my scorecard. He won the 4th and he won the 8th. You know, I don't know where that guy came from.
Can you imagine? One guy had him winning 77-75.
I mean, that guy should have to explain himself. But again, that we've been down this road so many times. It's like beating a dead horse with that stuff. But at the end of the day, there were opportunities to go after him, and a lot of people are going to say he missed the eye. No, he was never going to go after him. See, this is where I'm probably getting people go nuts right now. He was never going to go after. That's why he was chosen as that opponent, because he had become that guy that just didn't have. He became the gunslinger. Because these guys are special guys, and Woodley's a special dude, and I hope it's coming across that I have that kind of admiration. But he's now that gunslinger who gets to a point where he can no longer get the gun out of the holster. Yeah, he can't. The gun stays in the holster more than it gets out. He can't get the gun. I mean, you know, he's still got the look. He's still got the nerve. Yeah, he still has all of that. You got to have a nerve to be a gunslinger. He's still got all of that. But he doesn't have, and when I say the nerve, the guts, the constitution, the makeup, but he doesn't have the belief to get that gun out of the holster fast anymore. And it gets left in the holster. And it's still a gun. He hurt him with the right hand. The bullets were still live bullets, but he just can't get it out of the holster anymore. And I don't necessarily believe it's physical, as I already talked about.
I agree with you.
But and that's it. And that's people come here to hear something. They come here to get an explanation. That's my explanation. That's what you're going to hear. But at the end of the day, everybody won in a way that Woodley kept his legacy. He can make an argument he won the fight. One judge gave it to him. He hurt him. He can make the argument I should have finished him. So he's got that. So he won in that way, even though his hand didn't get raised. And the other guy won in a way. Paul won in a way that he showed something that everybody wondered. That when the day comes that he's going to be asked to behave like a fighter, will he behave like a fighter? And he did. He passed that test. He won in a way where there was some authenticity to him for once. Nobody knew if it was authentic. Nobody knew if he had any credibility. Nobody knew. All they knew is he's picking these guys, and he's a big guy, and he's got an advantage. And he does. He has an age advantage. He's got a size advantage. He has a reach advantage. But he's not a professional fighter. We
We should also give a little bit of credit to his trainer, BJ Flores. I think BJ Flores done a great job. BJ Flores, good guy. Really nice guy.
I give credit to BJ Flores. I give credit for him seeking out BJ Flores. I give credit, and I have from the beginning, to the Paul brothers for respecting the sport. Yes. That they've respected the sport. They went out there and they learned what they had to learn. Look, I'm not pretending they've become Jake LaMotta or Marvin Hagler. I haven't lost my mind. I don't have to be drug tested. I understand that, but they respected the sport. They went out there and they learned what they had to learn. They dedicated themselves to learning it. And again, I say what's going to make people's brain matter go on the walls again. You got to get the Lysol out again. He's like Mayweather. He's picking his spots. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? But this one, there was a little more danger. And this one, at the end of the day, he got what he needed. He got a little test to find out for himself that he could depend on himself. He's got to be better for it. Because no matter how he talked, forget about the talk, and no matter how he promoted himself and all that crap, forget it. At the end of the day, you have to find out if you really feel that you could depend on yourself. And he found out. He got an answer. We all have questions in life. And I think that's part of why he's doing this. Because I think at a young age, you can't do certain things at a certain point. It becomes too late. And I think that he's in a place where he wants to find out things about. Yeah, I don't think it's about just making money. I know some people are going to get probably mad at me and say, well, gee, Terry, you're giving this guy a lot of credit. No, I'm giving him what I think he deserves to be given. I think that he's already made money. I think that he wants to find out about himself. He wants to see how far into the cave he can go and how far the cave goes. Yeah. And the cave is dark. That's us. The cave is us, inside ourselves. How far can you go inside that cave and continue to put lights on and continue to lighten dark places and continue to go? How far can you go? And who knows? Who knows how far? And I think he's trying to discover that. And that's a great thing in life, to be able to explore yourself, to find out what you truly are capable of, and what the walls. Who says you have a wall? Everyone says there's a wall. You hit a wall, and you're not able to achieve anything past that ceiling, right? That's what we call it, that ceiling. Well, who says there's a ceiling except the fact that we say there's a ceiling? But what if we keep saying, I don't believe there's a ceiling. I believe that I can push that ceiling further back and find how high that roof really is, or how high I can go, or how far I can venture into that space.
That's like the story of all athletic records. Think about the 4-minute mile, the 2-hour marathon, all those things.
100%. But look, I'm not trying to make this guy, one of these superior, once-in-a-lifetime athlete. I'm making him a human being. I'm just making him a guy that has an opportunity to search out what he can be, to find out some answers to some questions internally. That's all I'm making him out to be. That's all I'm making him out to be.
To your point, when we started this podcast, this whole thing was about connecting the dots of life, using fighting as an analogy. And yes, Jake Paul's not going to challenge for the light heavyweight championship of the world. But guess what? He's a kid who was making YouTube videos a couple years ago, and now he's fighting professional
100%.
fights. And you should take motivation from that in whatever you're doing. You don't have to be a fighter. Maybe you want to write a book that you've been putting off and making excuses for the last 3 years.
Exactly right.
Or maybe you want to start a new business and you're scared shitless. This is an example of like, hey, if you don't take shots, you're not going to score goals.
I'm gonna piggyback off of what you just said. You opened the door for me, and I'm gonna go in that door. He's gotten better already as a human being. Maybe this is penance for him. Yeah, maybe this is penance. He, for the first time ever, he said something that didn't sound just like boisterous, arrogant, promotional, pitches and gibble gerble, just and stuff that doesn't sound good sometimes, quite frankly, that I could do without hearing it. Yeah. But I understand what it's based on. I understand what he's aiming for. I understand the reason behind it. I get it, but it doesn't mean I like it. But for once, I liked what he said. He talked about bullying. And you know what? I immediately said, this guy is growing. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute here. He talked about bullying, and when I say he's doing penance, he talked about how he used to be a bully. Maybe he's trying to become a better person. And I'm not getting crazy out there. Don't think that, don't run to, I'm running to Lord's and then I'm going to cleanse myself in some water. I'm not going crazy. I'm not. I'm not going overboard. But I'm just saying, there's growth to this kid. He's only 24 years old. And maybe he's starting to see some things through the risks that he's putting himself in, because this time there was a little more risk. And now, and it was a controlled risk. It was a calculated risk, and it was calculated on his side. I made that point already. But what I'm saying is, he might not have liked the person that he was. And this might be his journey to get to a better person. How's that sound? I know people are going to say, wow, where'd that come from? Well, it came from where it came from. Me being around in combative positions for many, 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 many years. And sometimes you get to places where you want to redeem yourself. You want to find out things about yourself, but part of that is to get redemption, to see if you can be better. And when he started talking about bullying and that he was a bully and made that sort of confession, if you will, that's where it came from. I started thinking, wait a minute, this guy's looking for self-redemption. Not public redemption, but self-redemption. He wants to see if he can grow. And you know what? That's not a bad thing. That's a freaking good thing. And it's the first time I'm saying good things, and I'm at the same time I'm smacking him, because I'm saying it's the first time I heard him say something that I liked, to be quite frank. But I had to say it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Because at the end of the day, what he's doing can also be a thing that can teach people to try to get better, to try to advance yourself, to try to improve yourself. And there's different ways to do it. He found this way to do it. Listen, he's making money, he's doing all. I get it. I understand that. But there's more to it than that. For me, I believe. And again, when he said and started talking about bullying and kids out there that get bullied and stuff, I said, wow, he can be more than he ever bargained for when he started this thing, where he can teach. He can teach people to kind of face their demons and face their shortcomings and dare, that old saying, dare to be great, but dare to take a risk, dare to find out what you are.
Yeah, there's some real neurological science behind what you're saying, that you see it with people in recovery from addiction, is that they get a dopamine release. I believe it's dopamine versus serotonin, but the great neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, our friend, and Rob's other podcast that he produces, he recently had on another Stanford professor called Anna Lemke, and they were talking about the dopamine release and the high that people get from telling the truth and confessing things. And it almost becomes like a drug in and of itself. When you start to tell the truth, it becomes like a snowball gathering momentum, rolling down the hill. It's like, you know what? Telling the truth, putting this thing out in the light feels good. It's what recovering addicts feed off of. It's like, I've got to make all these, they go through their 12-step process of making amends, confessing, and making things right. So maybe this is all part of the process with Jake Paul. That's like, hey, in addition to becoming a better fighter, maybe I'm becoming a better person, and there's like some actual like neurological science behind how this is all happening, whether he knows that consciously or not. But it's interesting to see, and it's interesting that you highlighted that, because I do think that that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I'll use a word here, Ken, to go along with all this. Opportunity.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're presented opportunity we didn't ever know we were going to be presented.
Yep.
Just opportunity. An opportunity to get better, an opportunity to teach, an opportunity to discover, an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to challenge ourselves.
I'll give you another example is the Dr. Atlas Foundation. As you started to get some success on ESPN and some recognition from training and start to build a public awareness, you use that opportunity to create the Dr. Atlas Foundation, and look at what it's become today. I'm sure when you first started, you probably had no idea that it could be as big as it's become. And I know we've got the Dr. Atlas Foundation dinner coming up in November. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully COVID doesn't do anything to dampen the spirits this year, but I know I'm looking forward to it. I know Rob's looking forward to it, and hopefully it's bigger than it ever was. What's the date this year?
November 18th, and it's at the Hilton Hotel on Staten Island, and we pray that, that we won't be dampened, restricted too much with this, that the COVID situation will allow us to. Right now, we have a go, but you never know how that's going to change, and but I had to make a decision. I had to take a risk. We're talking about risk. I had to take a risk, or do it virtual again, go the safe way, go virtual again like we did last year, or say, hey, it's time to, get up off the canvas, dust ourselves off, and, things are opening up. We got to go forward. We got to do a dinner. We got to do a dinner. We got to get people together for this fight. So I made a decision to do that. Once you make the decision, you got to go forward. And I hope it was the right decision. I hope, but we're moving forward. We're hoping to God the people will come out, the celebrities will come out as they always have. And matter of fact, I invited Dustin Poirier.
He's going to be, I don't want to spoil his announcement. I don't think it's final yet, but he may have a fight in early December, in which case he'll be in training camp.
But he mentioned TBD. That to me, but he said that it was a month ahead, a month out, and he said he still would think about coming because it would be a month out. So
that's right. We talked
hopefully,
about it.
Hopefully he'll be able to make it, and but either way, I know that he would like to make it, and that's important to me. And hopefully,
but the other thing that's important is the amount of messages that I get in DMs from fans. Ask Teddy this, ask Teddy that. If you're listening to this and you're a fan of the show and you want to ask Teddy something, here's your opportunity to ask him in person, face to face, by coming to the dinner November 18th in Staten Island. Get your tickets. It's not expensive. It's for a good cause. It's a tax write-off. Come out to Staten Island, meet a bunch of celebrities, meet a bunch of different professional boxers and boxing personalities. You can even meet our great producer, the legendary Rob Moore. And hopefully we'll see Ariel Helwani there, speaking of MMA royalty.
He'll be there. He said he'll be there.
Yeah.
Helwani. Matter of fact, they did his podcast earlier today. And,
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, he does a great job. He really does. But let me tie the knot, so to speak, to tying up the Woodley Paul fight from a physical standpoint. Now that
tie a bow on it.
Yeah, it was from a physical standpoint. The difference was the jab, because Yeah, we understand that Woodley was shorter, and he'd have to. I always talk about geography is so important. He had to get closer, and the geography for the most part was owned by Paul. To his credit, he had to be on the outside, use his height, use his reach, stay on the outside. Woodley had to get closer, but where Woodley, and part of the reason why I picked against him, where he hurt himself was he no longer extends his jab. Whether it's shorter or longer than Paul's isn't really the point. If you're only throwing it half of what it's capable of being thrown, it's always going to be shorter. Mike Tyson had a shorter reach and was only 5'10", 5'11". He out-jabbed everybody when it was Mike Tyson, because he threw with confidence, he threw with timing. He sometimes slipped his head and threw it where he took away, he negated the other guy's reach advantage. And his jab he didn't throw it to the degree that, and the amount that Ali threw it, or with the kind of snap where it would get your attention the way Larry Holmes did or Ali's did. But it was every bit as effective, Tyson's. When he was at the top of his game. It discombobulated guys. It got him inside with guys. It kept guys defensive. It hurt guys. It intimidated guys. And he had to get every inch of what he had with that jab. He would extend it. And Woodley, shorter or not shorter, his real problem was that he has gotten to a place, and that's part of what I picked up on the film when I broke this down and picked against him. He doesn't extend his jab. Not consistently, most of the time he's pushing it. And when you're pushing it shorter, longer, taller, you have no shot to out-jab the guy. When he did extend it, he caught Paul with the jab a couple times. There was just no consistency to it. There was too much of him pushing the jab. So from a physical standpoint, for me, the jab was the big difference, because Paul was able to extend it, control the geography he needed on the outside, and use his legs. He did a good job of using his jab and his legs. He partnered the two up to keep range, to keep Woodley from getting into range to land a big shot. And he did a good job of doing that. And again, the jab, extending the jab, gave him an advantage, where Woodley was throwing that, for the most part, not all the time, but was throwing that half jab. And also, by throwing the half jab, it gives your opponent a chance to counter over it. And to the credit of Woodley, that didn't happen much. He got counted over it once or twice. But for the most part, he didn't. But the reason he didn't, which is good, that he didn't get caught with that right hand, but it's the same reason why he lost. Because he didn't take the chances. He didn't take the chances that he really had to. Like, he decided to be cautious, where he stayed out of range. When he did push the jab, he tried not to push it where he was in a danger area, where he'd be leaving the window open for a right hand. He was able to negotiate range where he was out of range, but that kept him from getting caught those big shots. But it also kept him from getting close enough to win. It kept him from getting into the geography, again, using that word, the dimensions that he needed to get into to win the fight. So for me, the physical part of it was the legs of Paul coupled with the jab, and where Woodley just did not extend his jab enough to really gain him entry. See, if I would have saw him extending the jab, I would have said, whoa, he has kind of taken himself out of that sort of hibernation, that mental hibernation that he's been in, where he's lost something, where he's lost some of that drive, that urgency, that, to get to the guy. If I would have saw that extended jab, because it would have told me that he was willing to do what he had to do to get to Paul. He didn't really show me that. Yeah, there was spots he caught him with the big punch, and he definitely brought the pressure all night long. But he brought it without the punches for the most part.
Exactly.
And there's a reason for that, as we've touched on and we've talked about already. So at the end of the day, I thought that Paul did a good job of navigating himself to a win, of boxing himself to a win. I thought this was the first time he had a chance to show more of his arsenal, if you will, his repertoire of punches. He was able to show more because he was forced to have to show more. In the other fights, he didn't have to show more. So we got a little bit of a better peek at what he is and what he's becoming. And the greatest credit I can give him is he stayed within himself. He didn't get outside himself. He didn't get to a place where some of the things that he's still not developed enough in would have hurt him, would have shown itself in recklessness and sloppiness. Like there was spots where he started to go after Woodley, where you could see, Ken, and I could see at least, where he realized that if he kept going after him, he would have got a little sloppy. He didn't have the refinement yet. He doesn't quite have the sea legs under him yet.
Yeah.
Yet. And so if he kept going after him, he would have gotten possibly exposed. And what did he do? To his credit, he pulled in. He pulled back. He realized where he was going and the vulnerability that he was starting to present if he kept going that way. And like I said, he pulled himself back, and he didn't let himself go that way. So he's not ready yet. He's not ready yet, nor should he be. My God, he's only been doing this a few years. Nor should he be. He's a work in progress, but you got a little bit better sense of what that progress is, where he was forced to do a little bit more. But again, the best thing he did for me, legs, jab, behavior when he got caught. He didn't, people were wondering if he was going to fold up like a cheap chair. he didn't. Nope. He didn't. And like I said, when he started to be aggressive and he got a little, out of sorts, if you will. He pulled it back, he tucked it back, and he didn't let it get away from him. He was conscious. He was cognizant of that.
Yeah.
That shows me he's getting calm in an uncalm environment. That's good. That's good. Listen, again, I'm not making him Jake LaMotta. I'm not making him Marvin Hagler. I'm not, you don't have to worry about my sanity yet. But I'm pointing things out that deserve to be pointed out. And at the end of the day, I thought, as I said earlier, they both won. More
importantly, you know what Jake Paul gets? He gets on the wall of fame behind me. He's officially up on the wall.
Well, that's when you know you've made it. Yep. I mean, it is.
That's what they said to me in the locker room. They were like, "Can we get our picture on the wall if we win?" I said, "All right, let me run it by Teddy."
Well, let's see. Not yet. You got to do something to get up there.
And you'll notice that Ugas is up there because last week someone rightfully so pointed out I had Pacquiao's picture up there, even though Ugas beat him. They said, "How can you dare put up Pacquiao when Ugas won the fight?" And I was like, you know what? You're right. He's going up next week. So Ugas makes the wall. Congratulations to him. And the other thing I wanted to mention to you is, what do you think of the T-shirt, Teddy? Ape Man Strong. They're back again this week.
No, it's
Ape Man Strong. Look at the back.
It's nice. Listen, it looks good on you. You're in good shape. It looks great. It's got a good look to it. And just as importantly as the look, and it does look good, but as the inspiration that it brings with the way the people that run this company think.
Yep.
They think the right way. They think about inspiration, motivation, about challenges, all the things we've been talking about, quite frankly.
Yep.
It's kind of it's right up their alley.
Yeah, they've given away a bunch of money to various causes. They're heavily involved in a lot of charity work since 2019, Teddy. They've given over $80,000 to 37 different charities. I have a feeling in November, the Dr. Atlas Foundation will be one of them. And just a little bit about the brand, for those who might not know, it's a t-shirt brand, 8 Man Strong apparel. It's a brand that believes in inspiring and empowering people to overcome the obstacles in their life. Their company motto is strong has many forms, find yours. This may be physical strength, it may be mental strength, or it might even be emotional strength. But depending on the challenge, you'll need to find one or all of these strengths to overcome. Their mission is to encourage the building of these strengths. Designed and printed in the USA, every shirt has a different meaning behind it and a motivational card describing this meaning. Check them out, Teddy, at apemanstrong.com and find your strong. And like I said, hopefully we can link up with them, do something special for the Dr. Atlas Foundation.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to say before we sign off or finish up with the Paul Woodley fight is thank you to Brandon Paraway, who's Dave Chappelle's security guy and owns a boxing gym down in Dallas called Sweat Boxing and Training. This guy is fantastic to me every time he sees me at the Dave Chappelle shows, and he's the one who asked Dustin and I to come back and talk to Dave. And thanks to Brandon, I'm going to see these guys at the Chappelle and Rogan show Friday night in Nashville. So wanted to just give him a quick thank you. But Teddy, what do you think? What do you think's next for Jake Paul? We're going to see him in there with a real boxer, or does he continue? Oh, one other thing I want to tell you before I get to that is when they announced, like I said, as soon as the bell rang to end the fight, we bolted. And the other two guys who were with Dustin, don't you want to see who won? I said, there's not a chance in hell that Jake Paul doesn't win this fight. A, I thought he won the fight. And B, look around. This train keeps rolling if Jake Paul wins. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been earned tonight one way or another through all the different revenue sources. You think that this train continues if Tyron Woodley wins? No. I said Jake Paul wins. Everyone involved in this gets another payday except for maybe Woodley, but everyone on the undercard. I mean, this train keeps rolling with a Jake Paul win. So, and to your point about the judging, like, I'm shocked that the guy gave Woodley a round, that anyone gave Woodley a single round, because there's no sanctioning body. There was no accountability. If they gave Jake Paul every single round, even if he had been knocked down every round, who are you going to complain to? It's a novelty boxing match. Of course he's going to win a decision. It's almost as guaranteed as a Canelo boxing match that goes to a decision. The golden goose is going to get all the favors.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. The gravy train continues. And look, the good part to it also is that there's other collateral things that are positive that probably nobody thought of when he was doing this. Most people just thought that, he's disrespecting the sport. He's taking away the integrity of the sport. No, he's not. This is separate from the sport of boxing, where you have professional fighters that have been fighting since they're a kid and that are world champions and they're competing. This is a different outlet. This is a different. It's like going to a different restaurant. It's your option to go or not go. This is just a different option.
Yeah.
You want entertainment of this kind? You're into this, you're curious about it, then you watch it. And the fight was good enough for the train to continue with interest, I believe, in that sort of way, to
Definitely.
see where this kid goes. How far does he take it? But again, for the people that were going nuts that Teddy Atlas would put any any kind of credence towards this. Hey, all I'm doing is pointing out that he's doing the American way. He's found a way to make money without doing anything criminal. And he's challenging himself, and he's being smart. Yeah, he's having an edge here and there, but he's challenging himself to something, and there's nothing wrong with that. And again, you're not forced to watch it. Is it replacing boxing? People say, "Oh my God, it's bad for boxing." No, it's not. It's not bad because it's not in the same realm as boxing. It's an alternative entertainment. And you have a choice if you want to go to that alternative entertainment. It's not, you still know where the good fights are. You still know who the real fighters are, who the top fighters are. Matter of fact, if these damn promoters gave you the fights, whether it's Spence and Crawford or me and other ones that I could talk about, Tank Davis and Lomachenko. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's so many great fights out there that could be made that you're never going to see. If these freaking greedy promoters gave you the fights that fans really want to see, well, then maybe fans wouldn't be complaining so much about that. This is stuff that now they're wandering off to watch. Maybe they wouldn't wander off to watch it if the promoters gave the fights that are there to be that the fans really are starving for, and not when it's 5 years too late or 10 years too late, like it was with Pacquiao and Mayweather, and so. And it becomes more of a money grab than a challenge of who the best is. So what I'm saying is this is an alternate entertainment route that you can take to watch this. But it's interesting. If you find it interesting to watch it. If you don't, you don't have to watch it.
And to their credit, though, you know that everyone on that card had their biggest payday ever. That's a fact.
Well, that's the point I was going to make.
Made more money than he ever made in a fight.
Well, that's what I meant by the collateral stuff. Yeah. Is that while this is being done, you're right. That's what I was going to get at. While this is being done, you have these fighters that, not just Woodley, but you have the other fighters.
Amanda Serrano.
That were on a bigger stage than they've been on before. They got an opportunity and a bigger payday. So they got an opportunity to show their wares to a bigger audience than they had before in the conventional boxing setting. So is that a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So they got a chance to make more money. Every fighter on that card made more money than they had before. And again, performed in a bigger audience than they would have performed if it was just conventional boxing. So there's a lot of things attached to it that nobody thought that this would be positive things, when this thing started. I understand, where people were so against it and so hesitant about supporting it at the beginning, that it felt fraudulent. It didn't feel real. But now as you get into it a little more, and you see that the other residual effects of it, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. And again,
on the last Triller card, Regis Prograis made 3 times what he made in his previous fight on that Jake Paul undercard.
So that there you are. And here's a real fighter that his shelf life is only so old.
Yep.
Right? And he gets a chance. He's earned it. He's taken the risk. And he gets a chance to make that kind of money.
It was big money. Significant.
So that's the thing that people aren't looking at when they just look at, oh, here's a YouTuber and oh my God, he's invading the world of boxing. No, he's not. He's putting his flag up in a special area, an area that if anything, it is an alternative to the actual conventional sport of boxing, of entertainment, and It's bringing eyeballs to the sport overall. It's kind of like the Rocky movie. I remember when the Rocky movie came out, people said, Teddy, is that hurting boxing to have a movie like that? How's it hurting boxing? It's bringing more attention to the sport. The sport does the worst job in the world of promoting itself. That's why UFC has passed it up like it's going backwards.
UFC is now the fourth biggest sport in the country, past hockey.
That's why they passed boxing, because they promote it, because Dana White promotes it, and they put competitive fights on. Okay. So when people say, "Oh, Rocky movie, that's phony, that's fake, that nobody could get hit that many punches," hey. It brought attention. Could it hurt the sport? How could it hurt the sport when it gets you talking about the sport, where it brings more eyeball? And that's what's happening with this. It's got more people looking at this, and also while they're looking at this, they're looking at what fights are out there in boxing that they can look at. And quite frankly, in a negative way, they're looking at the fights that aren't being given to them in boxing. They're saying, well, how come we're not getting the fights that we want, that we demand? And they're getting a little restless with that. But it's a positive thing in a way that, again, it just brings more attention over to the sport of boxing.
There was the one big loser in that fight, and not to be used loser in a derogatory term, but financially, I thought it was Tommy Fury. I thought Tommy Fury was putting himself in a position to be the next opponent, get a massive payday. I just can't see him the way he looked. In 4 rounds, he survived 4 rounds. He could barely keep his hands up at the end.
You know how you're going to sell? You have a kid in Paul, who's committed to trying to learn the sport, but he's just starting, right? 3 years, whatever. He's just starting, and at least when he's fighting these UFC guys, there's legitimacy. He's fighting a legitimate guy that has stature. But Fury's another beginner. And he looked like a beginner.
He struggled to get through 4 rounds.
And he looked like a beginner. So how are you going to sell a beginner who's definitely his stock is growing, Paul's stock. There's no doubt about that. But he's still a beginner. How are you going to sell a beginner with another beginner who's not even as developed as the first beginner? So It's going to be kind of hard to sell that now, and you make a good point. He probably heard. I want to finish with 2 things. My analogy at the end for why Woodley, well, I think I covered it pretty damn good why he lost. But I would say I had used an analogy with a car earlier. He, at the end of the day, for all the aggression, everything else, without the punching, Woodley basically let the motor run in the driveway too much. He just allowed it to idle and never took it out on the road enough. And at the end of the day, you can't win a fight that way in anything. You can't win a race by idling the engine or even zooming the engine up in the driveway. You got to get out on the track. He didn't get out on the road enough. And the other final thing I want to just give something to, because I've been hearing more people kind of chatter about this a little bit, and I got a funny feeling I know where they're hearing it. I think they're hearing it over here, Ken. I think they're hearing it over here. And, and they're not prone to say, yeah, we're hearing it over there. So that's okay. But we do know one thing, and we're blessed. We really are, Ken. They're all watching.
Yeah.
They're all watching. And I just want to, I've said it before, and I want to say it one more time. Now it's even more prevalent after Paul took a little bit of more of a step in his progression, that my explanation for this phenomena that's going on, and I said it before and I say it one more time, this phenomena that's going on with the Paul brothers, the YouTubers, it's the Matrix Unplugged. It's that series, that movie that sold a million, millions and millions of. It made millions and millions of dollars. That series, The Matrix. Everybody knows what it is, and they tapped into it. They found a way to unplug the Matrix. They found a way, and it's genius. And give them credit. Give credit where credit's due. It is brilliant. They found a way to take the YouTube characters and put them live into a boxing ring. That's what it is. That's why I called Matrix Unplugged. They found a way to take YouTube guy and take him out of the YouTube setting and put him into live boxing, into a live ring. YouTube live in a ring where you could get punched in the face. It is brilliant. And you know what went with them? All the audience.
That's for sure.
All the people, all the YouTubers. Now they're not just playing YouTube with a stick and a plastic gadget. Now their guy is in the ring live playing YouTube, and they're with him. and
to your point, the entire crowd was full of YouTubers last night. Honestly, it was full of little kids in diamond necklaces. Whether they were real or not, don't know, but there were no shortages of kids in crazy outfits and diamond necklaces and diamond watches. It was a crazy, crazy scene.
And that's why I came up saying that. I mean, it's brilliant. It really is. If it was a stock, I would buy it.
Yep.
I really.
I have to agree. And with that being said, Teddy, we're almost up to 200,000 subscribers. I think we should do some sort of giveaway at 200,000, give away some signed gloves, some signed books. So if you're watching this and you like the show and you want to help us, costs nothing. Just hit the subscribe button on YouTube. It helps us. Hey, look, we're not getting rich doing this. We love doing it. We're doing it for the fans. But if you can help us, it helps in a million different ways. So please subscribe to the show, if nothing else. Support the sponsors, but just subscribe is all we would ask. With that being said, Teddy, you got anything else?
No, just always take my calls.
No question. Guys, thanks for being with us. Enjoyed this one. Teddy, thanks for doing this. And we'll be back with you next week. Take care.